Hey guys, if you're someone who has been looking for the IGCSE Cambridge 0580 Paper 2-2 for Major 2024, here's the marking scheme for it, and I'll give you a very detailed walkthrough for the solutions, quick tips and tricks which will help you save time while attending this exam. So let's go for it. And the first question says that the temperature at midnight is -4 degrees Celsius. The temperature at noon is 25 degrees Celsius. Work out the difference between these two temperatures. So simple as that, we're going to subtract -4 from 25. Whenever we're subtracting a negative integer from +1, what happens is that you end up adding the two. So it becomes 25 plus 4, and that is 29 degrees Celsius. That's your answer. Question 2 says a gardener charges $6.55 for each hour he works plus a fixed charge of $15.50. Calculate the total amount he charges when he works for 4 hours. So the equation for this is going to be fixed plus the variable cost times the time. So fixed cost is 15.50, variable is 6.55, multiplied by the number of hours, which is 4. So when you plug this in the calculator, what you should get is $41.7. In such questions, always try to translate the question into an equation. As you can see, what I did was I added the fixed charge to the variable cost, which was multiplied by the number of hours he was working for. So for each hour he worked, he was getting 6.55 plus a fixed cost. So the fixed cost will only be added once, not multiple times. You write the fixed cost and then add the variable cost multiplied by the number of hours he's working, and that will give the total cost. Question 3 says a delivery driver records the number of pizzas she delivers each month for 1 year. Complete the stem and leaf diagram. So as you can see, for the 20 category, we have 22 and 28. So 2 and 8, these are out. Then for 30s, we have 36 and 39. So this is also out. Then for 40s, we have 41, 44, 48, and 49. So 1, 4, 8, 9. So these are also out. And lastly, for 50s, as you can see, we have 57 and 54. So 57 is written twice, so you write 7 2 times. And I have missed out 52s. So we have 52, 54, 7, and 57. This is our stem and leaf diagram. Part B says find the median. As you can see, we have a total of 12 values because she delivers each month for 1 year. In a year, we have 12 months, so 12 values. So 12 is an even number. So if we start counting from the first value to the last value, the middle value is going to come between 44 and 48. Why? Because before 44, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values. And after 48, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values. The average of 44 and 48 is right in the middle of our data values. If the data set was an odd number, then you just look at the number in the middle of the data set. But in this case, since it's an even, so we find the average of the two middle values, and that is the median. So median is going to be the average of 44 and 48, which is basically 46. That is your answer. Question 4 says, Jonah has $750. He spends 1/4 of this money on travel, some of this money on food, and now he has $437.50 left. Work out the fraction of the $750 he spends on food. So once again, translate each statement into an equation. So he has a total of 750. He spends 1/4 of this money on travel. So travel is going to be 1/4 of 750, which basically equals to $187.5. Some of this money is spent on food, so we don't know what that amount is. But we know that once he has spent the money on travel and food, he's left with $437.50. So to find the amount that he spent on food, we will subtract the amount of money that he spends on travel and the remaining amount from the total. So that leaves us with $125. Now this $125 is the amount that he spends on food. They're asking us to find the fraction that he spends on food. For the fraction, we will divide 125 by 750, which is the total amount. And when you simplify it, that equals to 1/6. So that is the fraction that he spends on food. Question 5 says the table shows part of a tram timetable. All the trams take the same number of minutes to complete the journey from New Point to West Hill. Complete the table. So if they're taking the same amount of time to travel from one point to the other, we can see that from 10:30 to 11:17, it's taking 47 minutes. Similarly, from 13:30 to 14:17, it's again 47 minutes, which means to go from New Point to West Hill at 12:18, what we need to do is we need to add 47 minutes, which is basically going to be 8 plus 7 is 25, is 15. That's going to be 6. This is going to be 12. So since 65 is greater than 60, so we're going to take an hour and put it into 12. So that's going to be 13:05. That is your answer for West Hill. Question 6 says write 0.046 to it correct to two significant figures. So always remember when you're trying to round correct to significant figures or trying to find out how many significant figures exist in a number. In a decimal number, if the number is starting from 0, leading zeros are not counted as significant figures. What is a leading zero? These two are leading zeros. Leading zeros are not a part of significant figures. However, if the zero exists between non-zero numbers, then that zero is a part of significant figures. For example, if it was 0.04602, then these are correct to four significant figures. Because this zero is now in between non-zero digits. If it was before the non-zero digits, then yes, it would not be a part of significant figures. So keeping that in mind, we have to round 0.046 to it correct to two significant figures. So the two significant figures will start from 4 and end at 6. So it's going to be 0.046. Since 2 is less than 5, so we can't round that. It's going to be less. So 0.046 is our answer. Question 7 says on the Venn diagram, shade the region A union B. So A union B is going to be everything in A and everything in B. Question 8 says Sky invests $5,000 in an account paying simple interest at a rate of R% per year. At the end of 8 years, the value of his investment is $5,700. Find the value of R. So for simple interest, the formula is principal amount times the rate of interest times the time, PRT. So over here, we know the value of the final investment, which is $5,700, and initially we paid $5,000. So it's going to be 5,700 minus 5,000, which is your interest that you've earned, equals to the principal amount, which is 5,000, times r over 100, and the time is 8 years. So that's 700 equals to 50 times 8 times r. 700 divided by 400. So cancel out the zeros. 7 divided by 4 is basically 1.75%. That is your rate of interest. Question 9 says, describe fully the single transformation that maps triangle A onto triangle B. So as you can see, triangle B is an enlarged version of triangle A, which means there has been enlargement. Now we need to find the scale factor for this enlargement. If you compare this length with this length, we can see that this is 1 unit and these are 2 units, which means the scale factor is 2. Next thing we need to know is the center of enlargement. For the center of enlargement, I'm going to connect corresponding points to each other. Now, as you can see, all of these corresponding points, and as you can see, the line connecting all of these corresponding points are passing through the same point, which is 0, 2. So our center for enlargement is 0, 2. That's how you calculate the center for enlargements. Part B says, on the grid, draw the image of triangle A after translation by vector -4, 3. So if the translation is by the vector -4 and 3, we need to first highlight the points that are already given. This is 3, 2. That's 3, 1. This is 5, 1. So if we translate 3, 2 by the vector -4 and 3, we're going to add -4 to 3 and add 3 to 2. So that's going to make this -1 and 5. Then same for 5, 1, we're going to add -4 to 5. So that's going to give us 1. And 3 to 1 is going to give us 4. Now for 3, 1, -4 plus 3 is -1. And 1 plus 3 is 4. So these are the new points after the translation. So -1 and 4, 1 and 4, and -1 and 5. So as you can see in the translation, the size of the shape is not changing. Its placement is. And the direction is also the same. The direction hasn't changed. It's the same direction. But its placement has changed, hence showing that the translation has taken place. Question 10 says, write 174,000 standard form. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the decimal. Remember that every whole number has a decimal at its end. So there's a decimal over here. So we're going to move the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places to the left. Just going to make this 1.74 times 10 to the power of 5. Whenever we're writing numbers in standard form, always remember that the first digit has to be a non-zero number. That's why we stopped at 1 point. We didn't go after 1. It wasn't 0.174. And you don't need to write all the digits in the number. Like you can write the first 3 numbers and that's it. So that's going to be 1.74 times 10 to the power of 5. Question 11 says, a company surveys 40 of its employees. In the survey, 3 employees say they walk to work. The company has a total of 1,240 employees. Find the expected number of employees in the company who walk to work. So first, let's find the probability of people who walk to work. So that's going to be 3 out of 40. Now for the expected number, always multiply the probability with the total number of people. So that's going to be 3 over 40 times 1240. And that's going to give us 93 people. So 93 people are expected to walk to work. Question 12 says diagram shows a right angle triangle. Calculate the value of x. So in a right angle triangle, we can use two concepts. Either we can use Pythagoras or we can use SOHCAHTOA. Pythagoras is only applicable when you have two lengths. Over here, we have two lengths. That's correct. But Pythagoras is also only used to find the lengths, not the angle. Since in this case, they're asking us to find the angle and not the third length, so Pythagoras is out of our options. Now, the next thing we can use is SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA is basically your trig ratios. So is sine theta equals to opposite over hypotenuse. Ka is cosine theta equals to adjacent over hypotenuse. And TOA is tan theta equals to opposite over adjacent. Now, talking about the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse, hypotenuse is always your diagonal length. So this slant length is always the hypotenuse. Emphasis on always. Never get confused in the hypotenuse. It's always the diagonal. Talking about the opposite and adjacent, adjacent is the line on which the angle that you're using or trying to find lies. So we're trying to find angle X and it lies on this length, which means 8.5 is our adjacent. And the length that is opposite to the angle that you're trying to find or using is your opposite, which is this length. So opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse are determined like this. We need to find the value of X. And as you can see, we have the hypotenuse and we have the adjacent. And you need to find the angle, which means we're going to use cosine. So cos of X equals to 8.5 divided by 14. X would be cos of inverse of 8.5 over 14. And that's going to give us 52.62 degrees. That is your answer. Question 13 says, without using a calculator, work out 2 whole number 104 divided by 1 whole number 7 over 8. So we have mixed numbers being divided. First thing we need to do is convert the mixed number into an improper fraction. In order to do that, what we do is we times the denominator by the whole number and add the result to the numerator. So 2 times 4 plus 1. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. So 9 over 4 divided by 1 whole number 7 or 8. So once again, multiply the denominator by the whole number, which is going to be 8 times 1. And then add the result to the numerator. So that's 8 plus 7, which is 15. So 15 over 8. Next thing we need to remember is that when you're dividing fractions, you take the reciprocal of the second fraction and convert the division into multiplication. So what's going to happen is that it's going to be 9 over 4 times 8 over 15. When we say the word reciprocal, what we mean is that we're flipping the fraction. So when you flip the fraction, we swap the numerator with the denominator and vice versa. So now it's 9 times 8 over 4 times 15. Instead of multiplying the two, I would suggest simplify the fraction. And simplification doesn't only happen vertically, but it can happen diagonally as well. Horizontally, there is no concept of simplifying the fraction. You can't simplify the numerator with the numerator. It's always the numerator with the denominator. Hence, you can do it vertically and diagonally. So we know 3 3s are 9, 3 5s are 15, 4 1s are 4, and 4 2s are 8. So now it's 3 over 1 times 2 over 5. So now when you're multiplying fractions, you multiply it horizontally. 3 times 2 over 1 times 5. So that's 6 over 5. Now, if you go back to the question, says, give your answer as a mixed number in its simplest form. So to convert an improper fraction into a mixed number, we divide 6 by 5. Simple as that. So we know 5 ones are 5. 6 minus 5 is 1. So it's going to be 1 whole number, 1 over 5. The remainder becomes your numerator, and the quotient is your whole number. And the denominator will always be the same unless you have to further simplify it. So 1 whole number, 1 over 5. Question 14 says, A is the 0.02, B is the 0.86. Find the equation of the line AB, giving your answer in the form of y equals to mx plus c. So identify the coordinates of A and B. So what we can do is we can use the formula for the gradient, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This is your x1, y1. This is your x2, y2. You could have also written it the opposite way. A could have been x2, y2, and B could have been x1, y1. There is no restriction on that. However, you cannot mix it up. Like you can't say that A is x1 and y2, and B is x2 and y1. That's wrong. If you're picking one point, the coordinates of that point are going to be either x1, y1 or x2, y2. So keeping that in mind, it's going to be 6 minus 2 over 8 minus 0, which is 4 over 8. And that simplifies to 1 over 2. Now, as you can see, slope of intercept form is already given, which is y equals to mx plus c. So m is 1 over 2 x plus, now c is your y-intercept. Y-intercept is that point where x is 0. So as you can see, x is 0 over here at A. So C value is going to be 2. And this is your answer. If you were trying to find the x-intercept, then y would be 0 at that point. So x-intercept would lie on the x-axis. Any point on the x-axis would be the x-intercept. And any point on the y-axis would be the y-intercept. Question 15 says 3 towns A, B, and C are equidistant from each other. The bearing of C from A is 104. So the bearing of C from A, this is 104. Calculate the bearing of B from C. So let's draw the north at C and B. So if you're trying to calculate the bearing of B from C, this is the bearing that we're trying to find. Since the 3 points are equidistant from each other, that means it's an equilateral triangle. And an equilateral triangle, all angles are equal and are 60. Another thing you need to remember is that this north and this north are parallel. So in parallel lines, these two angles add up to 180. And these are called co-interior angles. Co-interior angles add up to 180, which means whatever this angle is, we can easily find that by subtracting 104 from 180. So 180 minus 104, and that gives us 76. So this is 76. So if we subtract 76 and 60 from 360, we can easily find this bearing over here. So bearing is going to be 360 minus 76 minus 60, and that is going to give us 224 degrees. That is the bearing of down B from down C. Question 16 says the speed time graph shows information about a car journey. Find the deceleration of the car between 240 and 320 seconds. So between 240 and 320 seconds, it's basically this area. So remember that the slope of a speed time graph gives us the acceleration or deceleration, whatever the case is. So that means we find the gradient using the formula m equals to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is going to be 16 minus 0 over 240 minus 320. So that's 16 over negative 80, which simplifies to negative 105. Now it says deceleration, so you don't need to write the negative sign. It already denotes that it's deceleration. So you just write 105, or write it as a decimal, which is going to be 0.2 meter per second square. Part B says calculate the total distance traveled during the 320 seconds. Part B says calculate the total distance the car travels during the 320 seconds. So total distance in a speed time graph is found by calculating the area under the graph, which is all of this. We need to find this area. So to find this area, what we're going to do is we're going to find the area of a trapezium. Why? Because the shape this graph is making is that of a trapezium. So area of trapezium basically has the formula of 1 over 2 times height times sum of parallel sides. So that means it's going to be 1 over 2 times 16 because 16 is your height. And parallel sides are 320, which is this distance, plus difference of 30 into 40, that's 210. When you solve this, what you should be getting is 4,240 meters. That is the distance traveled by the car in the 320 seconds. Always remember, slope of a speed time graph is your acceleration or deceleration. Distance of a speed time graph is the area under the graph. Question 17 says, W represents students who walk to school and G represents students who wear glasses. There are 20 students in a class. 3 wear glasses and walk to school. 8 walk to school and 2 do not wear glasses and do not walk to school. So there are 20 in total. 3 wear glasses and walk to school. So that's going to be in the middle. 2 do not wear glasses or do not walk to school, and 8 just walk to school. So that's going to be over here. And 8 walk to school, which means total number of people who walk to school is 8. Hence, the people who only walk to school is going to be 8 minus 3, and that is 5. So to find the people who just wear glasses, we will subtract 5, 3, and 2 from 20. And that's going to give us 10. So 10 people only wear pluses. And that is your complete Venn diagram. Question 18, the graph of y equals to f of x is drawn on the grid. Draw the tangent to the graph at the point x equals to 3, and then use your tangent to find an estimate for the gradient of the graph at the point x equals to 3. So what we're going to do is, we're going to draw a tangent over here at x equals to 3. This is our tangent. Now, to find the gradient of the tangent, to find the gradient of the graph, what you can do is you can find the gradient of the tangent. Why? Because the gradient of the tangent is always the same as the gradient of the graph. And you will learn more about this when you go into A levels. You'll be doing differentiation and all, and you will see that when you're finding the gradient of the curve, that gradient is same as the gradient of the tangent. But the gradient of the normal is like perpendicular to it. So same logic, but like different things. So over here, to find the gradient of the curve, I'm going to pick 2 points on the tangent and then use that to find the gradient. It's always advised to go for whole numbers rather than decimals because that makes your calculation more accurate. Even though it's an estimate, so they will give you a range of values for the final answer. And if your answer lies in that range, your answer is correct. So I'm going to choose this point, and then I'm going to choose this point over here. But actually this point. Yeah. So that's basically 3.6 and 8. And this one is 2.2. Fine, for the scale, it's going to be 2 divided by 5, which is 0.4. So it's 0.4, 0.8, 1.2. This is 1.2. So gradient is going to be 8 minus 1.2 divided by 3.6 minus 2.2, 4.85, which can be rounded to 4.9 as well. So the estimate for the gradient of the curve at the point x equals 3 is 4.9. Question 19a says that y is directly proportional to x minus 1 whole square. When x equals to 4, y equals to 3. Find y when x equals to 7. So it's directly proportional. That means when y is increasing, x minus 1 whole square is also increasing. And when y is decreasing, x minus 1 whole square is also decreasing. So y is proportional to x minus 1 whole square. So when we remove the proportionality sign, we write equal to and multiply the constant of proportionality with the term, which is going to be k times x minus 1 whole square. K is your constant of proportionality, which you add to further solve the equation. So once you've created the equation, next step is to find the value of k. And to find the value of k, I'm going to use x equals to 4 and y equals to 3. So 3 equals to k times 4 minus 1 whole square. 3 equals to k times 3 square. So 3 equals to 9k and 3 divided by 9. So k is 1 over 3. So that means your equation is y equals to 1 over 3 times x minus 1 whole square. So now to find the value of y when x is 7, y is 1 over 3 times 7 minus 1 whole square, which is 1 over 3 times 6 whole square. So that's 36 divided by 3, which equals to 12. So y equals to 12 and x is 7. Part B says m is inversely proportional to the square root of a. Explain what happens to the value of m when the value of p is multiplied by 9. So m is inversely proportional. That means it's going to be 1 over square root of p, which is basically m equals to k over root p. Now, what happens to the value of m when the value of p is multiplied by 9? So if it's multiplied by 9, that's basically m equals to k over root of 9p, and that is k over 3p. So if we multiply the 3 with m and move it over there, 3m equals to kp. Hence, what's happening to m? The value of m is increasing by 3 times. That is your answer. Question 20 says two parcels are mathematically similar. The larger parcel has volume 80 centimeter cube and height 5.2 centimeters. The smaller parcel has the volume of 33.75 centimeter cube. Calculate the height of the smaller parcel. So when we're talking about the volume and like surface area of similar shapes, what you need to do is remember a very simple formula. When you talk about the volume, remember that we have two objects. This is the first, this is the second. This is A and this is B. Your length of A divided by the length of B whole cube would be equal to volume of A over volume of B. Or you could also say length of B over length of A whole cube equals to volume of B over volume of A. You can use either of these for the volume of similar shapes, and both are correct. So we know that the small parcel, I'm going to call that A, and the large parcel is B. So we have the heights. Small parcel is going to be 33.75 divided by the large parcel height, which is 5 point. Wait, no, we don't have the height. Small parcel is what we have to find, so the height for that. So LA over the height of the large parcel, which is 5.2. So this is whole cube equals to the volume of the small parcel is 33.75 and large parcel is 80. So to remove the cube on LA over 5.2, we will take the cube root on the other side. So that's going to give us 33.75 divided by 80, we cube rooted. And that's going to give us 0.75. So the length of A, we multiply 0.75 with 5.2, and that equals to 3.9 centimeters. That is your final answer for the height of the smaller parcel. If they were talking about the area of the similar shapes or surface area, then what you would do is you would write length A over length B whole squared equals to surface area of A over surface area of B. So for volume, you cube the ratio of the lengths and put it equal to the ratio of the volume. And for surface area, you square the ratio of the lengths and put it equal to the ratio of area. Question 21 says, solve the simultaneous equations. You must show all your working. So we have a quadratic simultaneous and then a linear one. So what I'm going to do is y is equal to x squared minus 18. This is the first equation. This is the second equation. I'm going to substitute 2 in 1. So we're going to replace y with x squared minus 18. So that's going to be 4 times x squared minus 18 plus 3x equals to 13. So expand the bracket. 4x squared minus 72 plus 3x equals to 13. bring 13 to the left-hand side. 4x squared plus 3x minus 72 minus 13 equals to 0. And that's going to be 4x squared plus 3x minus 85 equal to 0. Now you can see that we have a quadratic equation, and you can solve this quadratic equation either through middle term breakage or using the quadratic formula. Since most people prefer the quadratic formula, I'm going to use that. Quadratic formula is x equals to negative b plus minus square root of b square minus 4ac over 2a. Now, to figure out what the values of a, b, and c are, remember that the quadratic equation has the general form of ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. And we use that to figure out what a, b, and c are. A is the coefficient of x squared, so a is 4. Always remember, a, b, and c are the coefficient. They're the number values. You never write the variables with a, b, and c. It's always the number. B is the coefficient of x, which is 3. And c is the constant, which is negative 85. Another thing, don't miss out the signs. Always write the signs with the values. If b is negative, write the negative sign. If a is negative, write the negative sign. And don't write the x with it. Always write the numbers. So now that we figured out what a, b, and c are, we're going to substitute them in the quadratic formula. So minus 3 plus minus square root of b squared minus 4 times 4 times negative 85 over 2 times 4. So when you solve the terms inside the root, what you should get is 1,369. 8, and that is minus 3 plus minus 37 over 8. Now you can see that there's a plus minus between negative 3 and 37. That means we'll split the fraction into two fractions, where in one fraction it's going to be, I'm going to write that over here, x equals to negative 3 plus 37 over 8, and x equals to negative 3 minus 37 over 8. So for plus, we get 4.25, and for minus, we get negative 5. Now we're going to substitute these values of x in equation 2 to get the value of y. So I'm going to erase this part. So when x is 4.25, y is going to be 4.25 squared minus 18, and that gives us 0.0625. When x is negative 5, y is going to be negative 5 squared minus 18, and that gives us 7. So if you write this as coordinates, 4.25 and 0.0625, along with minus 5 and 7. These are your solutions to this simultaneous equation. Question 22a says, for each sketch, put a ring around the correct type of function. So as you can see, there are two peaks in this function. When you have two peaks in a function, that means it is cubic. If it was one peak, that was quadratic. For a linear function, it's just a straight line, which can be like a diagonal, a horizontal, or vertical line. This is your linear. For reciprocal, it's like this. And for exponential, it's either like this or like this. So over here, since we have two peaks, this is cubic. For the next one, this is reciprocal. Why? Because we have a curve over here and a curve over here. And remember that the reciprocal function never touches the x and y axis. It's always above it. Part B1 says on the grid, sketch the curve y equals to sine x for x is greater than equal to 0 and less than equal to 360. So for this, remember that the sine x graph has a maximum value of 1 and a minimum value of -1. So it's going to be like this, like this. Like it's very badly drawn, but like you draw it neatly. There's going to be maximum value at 1, minimum value at -1, and the intersection with the x-axis is going to be at 0, 180, and 360. This minimum value is at 270 and maximum value is at 90. This is your sine x graph. Second part says solve the equation sine x plus 0.4 equals to 0 for the same range. So sine x would equal to -0.4. X would equal to sine inverse of -0.4, which is going to give us the value of -23.58 degrees. Now remember, sine is negative in the third and the fourth quadrant. So this is where -23.58 will come. So since we're talking about the values from +0 to 360, first value is going to be this one, starting anti-clockwise from 0 towards the angle 9. And second value is going to be over here. So that's going to be 23.58 plus 180, which is going to give us 203.58. And then 360 minus 23.58, which is going to give us 336.42. So these are your values of x. Question 23 says the Venn diagram shows information about the number of students in a class. Some study English, some study French, some study Spanish, and some do not study any of these languages. We have to find the number of English union F complement, then union Spanish. So English union F complement is everything that's outside of English and French. So that is 4 and 5. But union with Spanish. So Spanish also includes these. So that's going to be 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. So that basically adds up to 15. Part B says one student is picked at random from those who study Spanish. Find the probability that this student studies exactly 2 languages. Someone who studies Spanish and studies exactly 2 languages. So he can either study English or Spanish or French. So that's going to be 2/10 plus 3/10 because 2 people study English and Spanish and 3 people study French and Spanish. So that's 5/10, which simplifies to 1/2. That is your answer. Question 24 says O is the origin and OPQR is a parallelogram. M is the midpoint of PQ and N divides QR in the ratio of 2:1. OP is A, OR is B. Find MN, giving your answer in terms of A and B at simplest form. So MN is this. We have OP, we have OR. Now M lies on PQ and divides PQ into 2 equal parts. So that means this is going to be B/2 and B/2. Now n is dividing qr in the ratio of 2:1. Rn is going to be 1/3 of A, and NQ is going to be 2/3 of A, because QR is being divided into the ratio of 2:1 because of N. So this is 1 and this is 2. So 1/3 of A and 2/3 of A. So now that we have determined our vectors, let's write this over here. This is 1/3 of A and this is 2/3 of A. We have to find Mn. So Mn is basically Mq plus Qn. So Mq is B over 2 plus Qn, that is going to be -2/3a. Why negative? Because we're going in the opposite direction. N to Q is +2/3a and Q to N is -2/3a. So that simplifies to -2/3 of A plus B over 2. That is Mn. Part B says the lines M, N, and O are extended to meet at S. Find the position vector of S. Give your answer in terms of A and or B in its simplest form. So M, N, and O are extended to meet at S. This was B over 2. This was 2/3 of A. This was 1/3 of A. In these cases, when they've extended lines and they're trying to figure out the position vector of any other vector, it's ideal to see if you have any similar lines. So if we look at this one is similar to this one. So if I draw these separately, this is your M, S, and this is N, R, S. So N, R, we know is 1/3 of A. We name this T, MT is A, because that's going to be the same. So we need to find what RS is. So what we can do is that since these two lines are similar, MP is similar to NR and TS is similar to RS, we can create a ratio where we can say that RS over TS equals to NR over MT. We don't know what RS is, but we know that NR is 1/3 of A. I think NR is RN actually. TS is B over 2 plus RS. So that's B over 2 because MQ is the same as TR because T is exactly beneath M. So B over 2 plus RS. RS is what we're trying to find, and MT is, or TM is A. Should be TM. Yeah, so TM is A. So the A's get cancelled out and we're left with RS over B over 2 plus RS equals to 1 over 3. RS over B over 2 plus RS equals to 1/3. Cross multiply 3RS equals to B over 2 plus RS. 3RS minus RS is B over 2. That's 2RS. So RS is B over 4. So now to find the position vector of S, OS is going to be B plus B over 4. Why B plus B over 4? If we go back, OR is B. So OS is OR plus RS. So let me just write that over here first. OS is OR plus RS. So OR is B and RS is B over 4. So that's 4B plus B over 4. And that's 5B over 4. That is your final answer.